Welcome to Pause for the Truth, where you can sit back, relax, and hear an honest dialogue about health, wealth, legal, and social issues. The hosts are Dr. Rogers Kane, family practice physician, and Jocelyn Turner, health education consultant, with co hosts from the Northeast Florida Medical Society and its foundation. Stay tuned for the truth about matters affecting you and your family. We're here to tell you what's really going on and why.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy for all of you that are able to join us this evening on another good Tuesday, a fairly good day, a little bit on the warm side, but weather was clear and very enjoyable day. Uh, Even though I spent most of mine inside, when I came out, it was okay. Miss Turner, how are you today?
I'm doing well now that I'm not sideways on the screen because when
Yeah,
I
I know
came
you
on
was
there
a
the
side,
first time, I
you
did
was
something a
a
little fancy with
sidewinder.
the screen.
I felt like Gabby Hayes wanted to call you a sidewinder. Um, for those that don't know Gabby Hayes, don't worry about
No, I don't.
it.
I really don't. That's why you notice silence. But
Yeah, yeah,
good to see you all. Good to see you, Linda. Thank you as always. You know when I reach out to Linda, God bless her. Every time I ask her, she says yes unless she has another commitment. So we're always super excited to have her on. And tonight we're talking about fueling women's health across every stage of life. What that means so much to so many people. Linda, as I was thinking about this, I was thinking that my own life and the stages of things that have happened to me or with me during my life. But I also take responsibility, Linda, for some of the stuff that's happened because I know lectures from Dr. Kane when he was my primary care physician and my current primary care physician, and like, yeah, I know. So to our audience, you're not alone. It's not easy navigating those those habits that contribute to our overall health. But no matter what, we're going to press on Pause for the Truth and hope that some of us will get some tidbits from these wonderful experts who join us from week to week. So we welcome again our favorite registered dietitian, Linda Lockett Brown, to the podcast. Good evening, Linda.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely, and we're so happy to have you, Linda. I don't know if we ever asked, and forgive me if I did, but maybe somebody's hearing for the very first time. But tell us what inspired you and what keeps you inspired in the work you're doing as a registered and licensed dietitian.
What inspired me initially was my father being diagnosed with type
Oh
2
yeah.
diabetes when I was 8 years old.
Mm.
And it was traumatic for the whole family. And what inspires me now is seeing my clients get better
Mm.
and, seeing them, some of them come in, they can barely stand up. And in 2 to 3 weeks, they look brand new.
Yeah, a friend of mine was talking and talk often about inflammation, for example,
Yeah,
and those things that can contribute to it. And you know, when we eat, Linda, we don't think about that kind of stuff. Most people don't even know about the cause and effect of. They just think about the only cause and effect they know is if I eat too much, I'm going to gain weight, or I
right.
can't eat salty foods because it may make my blood pressure go up, or the doctor told me I might have diabetes, so I'm gonna have to watch something. I don't even understand it. So it's very complex. So how about I let you take it away? But I'm going to start out by first saying to our audience that May, the month of May, and always remember it because during the month where we recognize mothers and Mother's Day, it's also Women's Health Month. So on the podcast, we like to take the opportunity to talk about women's health or talk about those various aspects of the health of women. We're not going to be totally talking about women because Dr. King won't feel some kind of way, but he's a physician, so he's cool. We let him have his day a couple of weeks ago, Linda, when it was an all men night. You know, I wasn't even invited to the party. So
Yeah, you were uninvited.
So whenever we have the opportunity, and next month, by the way, Linda, is Men's Health Month. So we're gonna focus on men next month. So, but for tonight, I want to ask you just a simple question. Why is women's nutrition such an important topic, especially today?
You know, when I put this presentation together, I even came to a different level of awareness. And I looked up something called epigenetics. And what that means is what your genes do in response to what you eat. And I was really glad that I looked at that, because if a woman is pregnant, what she eats can affect 2 generations after her. Wow. And if a person comes from a country where, say, there was a famine and the grandmother went through the famine, the daughter, her daughter, may be normal, but the grandchild, if you take that child and put them in the United States of America, where we have excess calories everywhere, that child will be obese. So for me, that put a totally different spin on it, because right now, you know, the government has an assault on WIC and on food stamps, and WIC is specifically designed for pregnant women and infants and preschool children. Well, that's where we need to put our money, so that pregnant women get what they need, so that their children will be healthy, and we're affecting 3 generations at a time by doing that.
It's funny you mentioned that. When I was at the University of Florida and I was in my anatomy class, and after class, we were talking about obesity and overweight, obesity, and whatever it was, I'll never forget the conversation. I went up to my professor and I told him, and I was even not a real big girl at that point, but I told him, I said, all my life I've struggled with keeping my weight down. He said, tell me about your mother and your grandmother. I said, my mom she's never been overweight, but my grandmother, her mother was.
Okay.
My mom and her siblings always tell me that my figure is the same as my great grandmother's. When her brothers started looking at me, the older I got, they told me, wow, you look like my mother. And so he told me, you will probably always have to, or you will probably always struggle with your weight, and you probably will never be a small woman. I was just like, what? So when you say that, it just reminds me from that conversation 40 years ago. Okay, not that long, but I'm not going to date myself. Decades ago.
Too late.
I had that conversation with my anatomy professor.
So that's epigenetics. So that is a perfect example. Perfect example.
Wow. And I don't know if you have I know you always come with a plethora of information. One of your favorite fans, by the way, is my brother. He was like, man, when are y'all having that registered dietitian on? I get a lot of good information from her. So hopefully my brother is listening. Do you have
he's not, he can always come back and replay it.
Yep. Go ahead, Linda, if you have a PowerPoint.
His check is in the mail. Now, can you see the PowerPoint?
Not yet. No.
Okay. So we're gonna have to do something here.
Coming up now.
It is.
I see your screen, your Windows screen, not the actual presentation. If you double click on it, we'll be able to see it.
What is all you need to know about cholesterol? You see what's on the screen, Linda?
Women's nutrition. If you click on
it, I can't click it from here. I think you got to click from here.
So do you see some ladies right now?
No, we see your window screen that
Okay.
lists your file, that lists your files. We can't actually see the presentation. We see the list of presentations.
Okay, so let me get rid of that.
So while you're doing that, let me ask Dr. Kane, let me pivot to Dr. Kane a moment. Dr. Kane, during your day-to-day practice, and you often talk about having, saying that your patients are growing older with you. They may have started, you all started out the same age, and now you're both senior citizens, if you will.
Right.
So what do you commonly see with your patients in terms of navigating, maintaining good nutrition and managing their health?
The most well, every day you hear, I have a lot of patients that they want to lose weight, They don't know what they're doing that's causing this weight gain. I don't eat that much. I really don't eat that much, is what I hear a lot of. And I used to be kind of not sarcastic in terms of talking to them, but I used to be a doubtful Thomas on that. Um, it's like, yeah, well, you're eating something, in terms of how the weight comes on. But more and more in recent years, I've gotten rid of that attitude, my earlier attitude, gotten rid of that it's not all the time what that person is, how much that person is eating, whether or not it's how frequent, but I'm just saying in totality. In terms of what they're eating, I tend to get a lot of I tend to get a lot of people, ladies, that I think a lot of it winds up being associated with the type of foods that they're eating.
Yeah.
More so than them eating too much. And I'm sure that's what Linda is probably going to get into. And what's in those foods, even though people try to eat healthy, these days, I don't know how much the food to trust. What they spray on the vegetables or the fruits, and what does it lead to weight gain? What they're feeding the chickens and the pigs and the cows in terms of estrogen? Are we beginning to see, is that having an effect on ladies, and, in terms of the weight, as well as could it be causing some type of reverse back to menopause for those that had already went through there? So it's just so much stuff in there, and that's what I'm hoping that Linda helped enlighten us on. And some of I know it's a lot of chemicals that Linda has come up with, these scientific names that people going like, I don't know what that is. But it contributed to their ill health, more or less.
Yeah, and you're
So,
right.
tell me, are you able to see my screen right now?
No, not yet.
Double click it. Let's see what happens.
Did that do anything?
No.
What we need to do is get Tyrone to call her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let Tyrone call. Text Tyrone her number, JT. Oh, there we go. Hold up.
Okay. Now, it
There
says
we go.
I'm sharing,
There we go.
but
We
you
see it.
probably see the ones down the side.
Yeah, we see the ones on the side as well.
Yeah.
We'll just roll with it if that's okay.
Yeah. We all good with it.
Okay.
Beautiful slide. Transgenerational.
I'm checking that out.
Yeah, and so if you look at this picture, it's exactly what you described a minute ago.
Yeah.
You see the grandmother, the daughters. One of the daughters looks fairly normal, but look at the child. So that's important. So here's how this all works. So you have the mother, she's pregnant, and if she has excess fat tissue in her abdomen, then that's inflammatory. And so that inflammation increases glucose, increases fatty acids, and all of that goes through the placenta and
Mm.
affects the fetus, affects the baby. So, what does the baby have? Elevated insulin levels, and they start developing excess body fat before birth. So when this child is born, you've probably heard of people saying they're hungry all the time and I can't get them, they're always hungry, they're always eating. Well, that comes from what happened inside the wound. So if the child is crying all the time, the tendency for most parents is if they're crying, feed them. So if you feed them and you overfeed them, then the cycle continues. So where the increased risk in later generations comes in, so you have nutritional imbalances, those actually change gene transcription. So there's changes in the genes. And one of the things that changes is DNA methylation, which is actually related to what Dr. Kane just said about exposure to toxins. So the toxins are external, the DNA methylation is internal, but the effect is the same.
Mm.
So when that happens, this is what goes on in later generations. And you can put it in three categories. One category is metabolic and the heart, cardiovascular. Another category is neurologic, cognitive, and mental health. And then the third category is developmental and physiologic. So, what does all of that mean? When you're talking about metabolic and cardiovascular, you're talking about obesity, increased body fat, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, insulin resistance, high blood pressure, heart disease, and fatty liver disease. In the patients that I saw just last week, I had 4 10-year-olds. I had 3 10-year-olds and 1 16-year-old. They were all diabetic, pre-diabetic, or hypertensive.
Wow, that young.
Just kind of wrap your mind around that, because I
Right.
had the 10-year-olds all weighed over 200 pounds.
Wow.
So when I was putting the slides together, it just kind of had a deeper meaning for me. So there can be cognitive impairment, the ADHD, depression, neurodevelopmental. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But this last part, appetite regulation. And
Mm.
I've had parents say to me, and you've probably heard this, where they say that they never can get enough to eat. They're always hungry. And they think, well, what's wrong? Well, if they were exposed to all of those cytokines and all those things changed while they were in the womb, it's an issue. And related to this category is also kidney development. And the research I looked at said that those kids have fewer nephrons in their kidney. So what that means is they will have decreased kidney function at a
Mm.
much younger age. So it's really kind of scary, but it's making a lot of sense.
And for those that nephrons are the basic cellular filtering units in the kidneys, is at least about 1 million in each kidney on average. 1 million in each kidney. Sorry.
So
But they are the filtering unit in the kidney, individual small filtering units.
So these kids are being born with fewer cells than Dr. Kane
Mm.
just said. That
Mm.
puts them at risk. And so it was really kind of hard for me to wrap my head around
Mhm.
seeing 3 kids in a week that were 10 years old that weighed over 200 pounds, and their blood pressure is higher than mine. That it was just one of those weeks where you have a moment, and I had a moment.
I remember,
Wow.
I'm obviously being as old as I am, I've been in the game for a long while. Remember they used to talk about type 1, type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes was, most of them, they were talking about at one point in time, oh, they got it. You can see it for the age of 12, and then it jumped up to 14 or something like that.
Right.
But the type 2, we usually didn't see until the word of, at that time was, well, we usually won't see it until they get around 40 years old, and that's when we start seeing that type 2 diabetes, at that time. Now we see type 2 diabetes, as in what Linda is saying, at the age of 10. Okay, them drop from 40 years old to 10 years old. And there's mainly, and Linda will tell you the rest of it, but, obviously it's got to be the food system. But I'll let her finish. I just wanted to point that out, the difference between type 2 and type 1 diabetes, and when it was the original onset that we discussed.
And so what this is saying to me, when you look at the epigenetics, we need to back up. We need to back up and make sure that all pregnant mothers are getting adequate nutrition, because if we don't, we're losing 3 generations.
And I was going to ask you that, Linda, throughout your career, because I'm not the only one who's been around decades, Dr. Kane. Linda, you and Linda have too. So even though I told her myself earlier, but is a visit to the registered dietitian a part of the pregnancy visits, if you will, though, as a mother, as a woman is going in for her prenatal visits or during the stages of her pregnancy? Is that typical, or is most of the time just spent with OBGYN?
Most of the time is spent with the OBGYN. And so I do have OBGYN sending me patients, but they send me the patients that they don't know what to do with. So they send them to me. I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to do that they couldn't do, but I'm actually pretty successful with them because I go at it differently. But here's the rub. It is not paid for by any insurance company.
And that is why you probably don't see many of the GYNs spending a whole lot of time on what they need to spend more time on, like what you're doing, Linda, and that is educating.
And even if they educated them, it probably would not be in the way that dietitians do it.
Agreed.
We're a little more practical about it. A little more practical, because what the OBGYNs want to do is just put them on insulin, but that actually can make this worse because they'll be controlling the mother's blood sugar. But when you give somebody insulin, if they don't burn those calories, you increase the saving of body fat. So kind of scary. Now, one of the best things about the WIC program is every person in the WIC program gets to see a registered dietitian every time they go in to recertify.
That's good.
Yeah, but it's just being on WIC, though, is based on income and need. But if someone has private insurance and they're not going through the system, if you will, then that's not a program that they're going to be able to tap into, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
So just something to think about. So what I want to do now is just go through different ages and look at what nutrients are at risk and kind of what's going on. So when you look at adolescents, the most common deficiencies are iron, calcium, and vitamin D. And so, if you would ask, what is the scariest thing about getting older? To me, the scariest thing is osteoporosis, because I'm only 4'9.5". And if I shrink, I'm in big trouble. So I'm in real big trouble. I only got an inch to spare. So and I haven't shrunk. So I'm doing well. But you need to build peak bone mass before age 32. So if you have women, females running around drinking soda, drinking juice, not drinking milk, not eating cheese, they're already at risk for osteoporosis later in life. Because if they get pregnant, the baby will get their calcium and the mother will have lower levels. So the issue that I see with adolescents is poor diet quality. Fast food will not do it. And so, what is the kid doing? They're tired, they're anemic, and they're at risk for having inferior bone structure. It's just not strong enough. And
Linda, let me
so,
ask you a quick question.
okay,
I'm sorry, I just thought about something. When you talk about building peak bone mass, is that just through nutrition, or does it also include fitness or exercise?
that's a really good question. It does include fitness, but if you're not taking in enough calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus to build the bone, what you see kids that don't have adequate calcium and phosphorus to build bone, you see them getting these fractures. So they will get really serious fractures when, and you would think, well, why would your bone fracture when all you did was a simple move? But they get the fractures because their bones have inadequate structure. So, and then you have a lot of people that are against dairy from a cow. And when you see my list here, I'm talking about dairy from a cow because the ratio of calcium to magnesium to phosphorus in milk and dairy products is the right proportion to maximize the amount of calcium that you take in. So, and I understand people have lactose intolerance. I understand that, but it is a very efficient way to get calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus into your bones. So, most kids like cheese. You can kind of train them to like yogurt if they're athletic and they want to make a smoothie. Have them use yogurt as the base of the smoothie and get it that way. Um,
Wow. And my favorite, sardines.
there you go.
I'm
But
kidding.
that's that's assuming that you eat the whole thing because you're getting the calcium out of the bones.
And I actually like sardines. I really do. But I don't eat them often. But I'm just that's Linda, I have to admit that usually when you're on, I get enthusiastic, but I'm feeling a little dismal right now. I'm feeling a little
Uh-oh.
like scary. Like I have nieces. I just had a brand new nephew born. I'm just like, oh my goodness, what do I need to tell my niece who just had a baby, and that she needs to be doing for herself? So hopefully, as you go through the stages of life, I can share something with her.
Yeah. And now is the time. So iron deficiency is common in adolescent women. And so when you look at these symptoms, fatigue, you can't concentrate, reduced athletic performance. I don't know if you've ever watched high school students kind of drag into school. They really kind of drag into school and they're fatigued first thing in the morning. So you kind of see it. And so you need iron and you need iron to carry your oxygen, and that's where you get energy from. So then I put this list of foods that are high in vitamin C because if you want to maximize the amount of iron that you get from food, you need to eat that food with vitamin C food at the same time. So that could be a hamburger and an orange. So if you had a hamburger and an orange and you eat it at the same time, you're going to get the most vitamin C out of it. But, in addition to fruits that are high in vitamin C, there's also vegetables, bell peppers and broccoli. So if you had your adolescent just develop the habit of eating strips of bell pepper, like the green ones and the red and the yellow and the orange, they're very sweet. So if they snack on that rather than snacking on chips, then they'll be getting a lot of vitamin C. So it's actually not hard.
Can I fry them up and make them crunchy like chips? I'm kidding.
No, because the vitamin C is destroyed by heating.
Oh,
And
Linda, you're killing me tonight. I'm trying to feel enthusiastic, but go
so
ahead. I'm
when
sorry.
you look at these foods that are rich in iron, red meat. Now, ignore the spinach because you can get iron from spinach, but it's not available. Your body can't get at it, so just ignore the spinach. But beans and lentils and breakfast cereals. Now, here's something crunchy. Get some, what is it? Total.
Yep.
Total is very crunchy. Eat total instead of potato chips, and you'll be getting all kinds of minerals. How about
I like
that?
total and raisins.
Total cereal.
Total and raisins.
Oats.
I love the crunch on that. Throw me some nuts in there and you got a good snack.
There you go. And that's much better than chips. So then we get to the women of reproductive age. And I thought it was interesting that they went all the way up to 50 for
Right?
the reproductive age. But
Used to
the
be
common
44.
deficiencies,
Used to be 44, Linda. I didn't know it goes all the way up to 50. Like, wow.
yeah,
Let
don't
me
want
put
to go
it
there.
this. Yeah,
Um,
I think most women will be ready to fight if you start talking about something after 40, especially.
No, shoot themselves.
Or you, or me.
No, they wouldn't be
Man.
shooting. They wouldn't be shooting themselves. But anyway, so common deficiencies in this age group: iron, folic acid, vitamin D, iodine, and magnesium. So we were so concerned about not having enough folate in the food of women of childbearing age that we now fortify grains like bread and flour with folate. Now, we did that to cut down on birth defects, but the problem is when you do that, you increase the risk of cancer of the colon. And we're already seeing that. So, of course, monthly blood loss, that's where the iron is going. But look at this last item, and we had a whole segment on this maybe a year ago.
Mhm.
Women of childbearing age are constantly on diets, and they are eating ultra processed foods. So this is the teenagers, and so now you're getting into the time of life where you have babies, and that contributes to the deficiencies.
Can you mention real quickly a few examples of ultra processed foods?
Basically, an ultra processed food is anything that has more than 5 ingredients. And the best way I can describe it is these foods do not look anything like the original food. So it would be things like chips, soda, energy drinks, Lunchables, Pretty much anything in a box. So you think about Hamburger Helper as
Mhm.
opposed to cooking the noodles and cooking the ground beef and adding your own spices. Two totally different things. And so I've read that within the next 10 years, toddlers and preschoolers will not even know what a real strawberry tastes like, because they're drinking things out of pouches and they're getting little gummies that are supposedly made from real fruit, but there's coloring and flavoring added to it. And strawberry is a really nice red color. Kids like it. And then they go with the blues. So if you see a food that has red food coloring, blue food coloring, it is ultra processed.
Let me ask you a
And
question. I remember
uh
when you were talking, I was thinking about Chef Amadeus was on before, and he likes to
yes,
dehydrate foods. So
yes,
if someone has, say, strawberries or fruit, rather than letting it go bad, can they dehydrate it and use them as a snack versus those gummies and things like that? Would that does that make it not as healthy anymore, or is a better option than the gummies or the pouches of drinks?
that's going to be a much better option than the gummies. Now, what you will lose is your heat sensitive vitamins, like your vitamin C and all of your B vitamins, but the minerals will still be in there. The fiber will still be in there. And some of those bioflavonoids, like what makes it red, you may lose a little bit of that. But even with those losses, eating that dehydrated fruit is going to be better than eating a gummy.
But so
So,
making a smoothie is probably even a better option, right?
a much better option.
Okay.
Much better option.
All righty. Thank you.
So, the reason why we added folate to the food supply, we enriched it, was to decrease the risk of neural tube defects. So that's like spina bifida, cleft palate. And it was done because women of childbearing age were eating so poorly that the rate of those birth defects were going up. So we started supplementing the food supply. The thing that I kind of want you to think about is most pregnancies in the United States of America are not planned. If you know you're planning a pregnancy, then you're going to start taking your prenatals and doing all this stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
most pregnancies are unplanned. So that means that it's critical that women of childbearing age eat the right things so that if they unintentionally get pregnant, the baby has a fighting chance. And most of, like, when it comes to folate, those birth defects occur before the woman even knows that she's pregnant.
Mm.
So you really need to have everything on board all the time, as much
And
as possible.
and not only do you get the neural tube defects, but you can also get what they call anencephaly, which is
Yeah,
they won't be born with a brain. So,
yeah,
and I
very
know,
scary.
yeah, very scary. And I don't know how smart this is, but most of my women of childbearing age, when we talk about any vitamin supplement, I tell them that one I for sure want them to take is folic acid, 1 milligram a day, because of their potential for pregnancy.
Right.
Now, and that's just what I tell them to do. I don't think it can cause any harm because it is water soluble, so you won't overdose on it. Let me put it that way, necessarily.
Yeah, they won't overdose on it, but if they're not eating enough fiber, having that extra folate in the large intestine could
Right, can be
increase
an
their
issue.
risk of
Right.
cancer of the colon. So,
Okay.
one more reason to eat your fruits and vegetables.
All right.
Mm.
So, here are the foods that are rich in folate. A lot of different foods, leafy greens, your beans, asparagus, avocado, and citrus fruits. So not hard to do. So another mineral that tends to be lacking, and that's magnesium. And so you need magnesium in addition to needing it for your bones. You also need it for nerve transmission. You need it for muscle contraction. And if you get severely deficient in magnesium, you will get leg cramps. And my clients tell me they're extremely painful, but easy to get magnesium. So if you eat it, almonds are the highest nut in magnesium, but all nuts have some magnesium. Pumpkin seeds, black beans, spinach, and whole grains. So not hard to do. And then we have foods that are rich in vitamin D. So to build that bone that we're talking about, you need calcium, magnesium, uh, phosphorus, and you need vitamin D. So milk is just an easy way to get it. Milk and cheese and yogurt, all fortified with vitamin D. But salmon has vitamin D. Egg yolks have vitamin D. So do mushrooms and tuna. So have a tuna salad, throw some eggs in there, and you're getting your vitamin D.
Hmm.
Now, you've probably heard of postpartum depression. That's a real thing. And you know, when we have baby showers at my church, most people are giving folks all these little frou-frou baby clothes. I give them a bottle of B6 with a little note. As soon as you deliver, take this and take one every day until you feel happy. Um, and I do that as a way to prevent postpartum depression. So
What do you give them?
Vitamin
B6,
B6.
vitamin B6.
Oh,
I'm a
well,
lot of fun. And so,
Yeah. Here come that B6 again.
yeah, that's right. So, but look at this list of nutrients that can become deficient or be deficient during pregnancy and postpartum. So, iron, the folate, iodine, choline, vitamin D, vitamin B6. And so, it's even recommended that when you pick a prenatal vitamin, that you pick one that has iodine and choline in it. Is that important? So, and I don't know if OBGYNs tell mothers this, but you should take prenatal vitamins until the child is 2 years old so that you are replacing your stores. And it takes 2 years.
wow.
No, they may or may not tell them, but as soon as they get through being pregnant, they come back to see their primary care. So we should be aware of this as well, because
Yeah.
the primary care revert back to us once
Okay.
they deliver.
Okay. So, and then 2 years, 2 years.
I got
Um,
it now.
and so 25% of pregnant women are iron deficient. Is that a problem? Yes, it is. The mother could be anemic. And if you've ever been anemic, sometimes if it's bad, you can barely hold your head up. There's a risk of low birth weight. And so iron supports development of the placenta. That is pretty critical, pretty critical.
I'm texting
So,
my niece what you said, Linda.
okay, okay, thank you. So B12 deficiency. You would think in the United States of America, where we are meat eaters, that we would not have a problem with B12 deficiency.
Hmm.
Well, it apparently we're beginning to. And so if this is one of those epigenetic things, if the mother is low in B12, it changes fat metabolism, insulin signaling, and brain development in the baby. That is really scary. That
Mm.
is really scary. So if the mother is low in B12 and is getting a high folate, which she's going to be getting from enriched grains, what that does in the infant is they have more body fat and more insulin resistance. So in this instance, those babies, as they grow up, they're going to be at increased risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and potentially cognitive impairment. And all of us want our children to be as you want them to be the one that's shooting their hand up because they know the answer to the question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there is a problem right now in the United States with women getting inadequate protein. So why would that happen? It could be from dieting. And, pregnancy is not a time to be on a diet. It could be from not having enough money to buy protein. Or if you have a lot of kids, what is a mother going to do? They're going to give the meat to their children, and they may not be getting enough.
Mm-hmm.
So if the mother gets inadequate protein, the child will have a problem with blood pressure, regulation of blood sugar, and kidney development. So this is what we mentioned earlier about the kidney not having enough nephrons, and that's from protein restriction during the pregnancy. Now, the other issue that may happen is if the mother has that condition where they're throwing up all the time, or they are literally throwing up all the time, then attention needs to be paid to getting them a protein shake, adding some whey protein to their food. It's not something that it needs to be attended to. It shouldn't be ignored. So what happens in the kid? Hypertension, metabolic syndrome, reduced nephron number.
Wow,
Now,
this is also interesting, Linda, and it makes you wonder. The older that we get at middle age, I know you say that you've had some young patients now, but
yeah,
I think about people I know across the spectrum who once they reach middle age and stop dieting and all that good stuff, they started having those illnesses that you mentioned on the previous, and even still on here, the long-term outcomes.
that's right. That's right. So severe calorie restriction, they first looked at during pregnancy. They first looked at this in countries where there were famines, and then they followed the families for several generations, and that's actually where this came from. But the transgenerational effect of calorie restriction during pregnancy, there's a higher risk of obesity, like we talked about earlier, and this is in the grandchildren. Altered glucose metabolism, increased rates of heart disease, schizophrenia, and depression. Very scary. So, to me, looking at this and thinking about how much food costs right now, it makes WIC look like a real bargain,
Mm-hmm.
because we're talking about grandchildren.
Yeah.
Now,
And
we
generally, grandmothers and mothers want the best for their children, right?
absolutely,
But
absolutely.
education, getting this information to them, how much is it really happening though? Unless they're going to WIC, like you said, because I know, having worked at the health department, the registered dietitians are having conversations with people. But I mean, in the general population, a lot of this information is probably not getting to them. And then they just have to start dealing with the health issues as,
This, yeah,
their lives progress. Yeah.
dealing with the effects of it. So people are pretty familiar with gestational diabetes and elevated blood sugar. So if the mother's blood sugar is elevated, it has epigenetic changes in the baby. So where are those changes? in pancreatic cells, in insulin pathways, in inflammatory pathways. So those children have increased risk for obesity, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes. So when you think about people, adults that have type 2 diabetes, and you have them fill out all of those forms and you ask who in your family has diabetes, generally there's going to be one or more people in their immediate family, or their mother or their grandmother, that had type 2 diabetes. Now, the picture that you see on the screen is a 13-pound newborn. They were born in the United States in 2026. 13 pounds at birth. So, what are the odds of this child going through life being normal weight? Slim to none.
Slim to none.
Slim to none. And they aren't the only one. I actually found two, but this one was cuter, so I put him on there.
But don't show the one that's not cuter, so they won't have any.
Yeah, but Linda, listen at that statement though. It makes you wonder if someone is listening and they have a child who is obese or overweight, if they get in with a registered dietitian such as yourself and are followed or monitored or given a meal plan, then there could be a possibility that they could slow down the progression of some of the diseases that might be inevitable, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because those kids that I told you about, they're not the only ones in my practice that are going through this. But what got the children to me was the parents thought, okay, I just need to get them in sports, and when they start running around, they're going to drop some of this weight. And in each case, the child could not play sports because the pediatrician would not sign off on that. There's a form that doctors have to fill out. The pediatrician said, no way, no how will I sign for this child to play sports because their blood pressure is too high. And so 10 years old. So that's actually how several of them got to me. Now, this goes back to the question about the ultra processed foods. So here's a picture. And you look at this is typical stuff that people eat day in and day out. Fried onion rings, I had a chicken sandwich. Was it grilled? Was it fried? It's usually fried. We got donuts. We have, and that is the weirdest looking hot dog I've ever seen. But we got candy.
It's a hot dog. It's an uncooked hot dog.
That is the weirdest hot dog I've ever seen. So maybe it's an AI generated. I'm not sure. But here's a table full of ultra processed foods. If a pregnant woman eats these foods during pregnancy, it affects the baby. It actually affects 3 different genes, but I only put one, and that's leptin. If leptin is affected, they'll be one of those kids that will never feel full, because leptin tells your body, I'm done, we're full. If leptin is altered, you just keep eating and eating and eating and eating. Another scary thing to me is there have been some researchers that have taken the cord blood when children are born, checked the cord blood and found these epigenetic changes in the cord blood. Wow. So this kid is newly hatched, and those changes have already occurred.
Umbilical cord you were talking about.
Yeah, really scary. So then we move on to perimenopause and menopause, and you see these age ranges kind of overlap. So we put age 40 to 60 for that one. The deficiencies that are common: calcium, vitamin D, magnesium. We're talking you're on your way to osteoporosis. I mean, that's really what that means. And so you have less estrogen, so that accelerates bone loss. And the good news is, if you get your bone density test done or have an x-ray, and the radiologist will put on there, oh, by the way, this bone is osteopenic. That's good information, because you can reverse osteopenia. You can reverse it with eating and physical activity.
Linda, just for those who may not, osteopenia is before you get to osteoporosis. It's going
Right.
from a normal bone and then progresses to osteoporosis. So the area between normal and actual diagnosis of osteoporosis is what we consider to be osteopenia. Not
And
quite.
it
Go
is
ahead.
reversible.
Right, it is. You're absolutely correct. But I was just saying that for the people that don't recognize what osteopenia means.
I just had a bone density last week, and that was look. That's one good test that I had.
Yay! That's good.
Yep.
So the vitamin B12, there are many people that there are two things that go on with B12. You need this thing called intrinsic factor to actually grab the B12 off of your food and ship it off into your bloodstream. And for some people, as they get older, the levels of intrinsic factor go down. So we've known about that for forever. But there's another reason why B12 is going down, and it's because people have been on proton pump inhibitors for reflux more than 9 months. So those folks are at risk for a B12 deficiency, because you need stomach acid to turn on intrinsic factor. So if your stomach acid has been neutralized by the medication, you can't get B12 from your food. So if you took a supplement, it would need to be a drop that you put under your tongue. So your stomach doesn't have to deal with it at all. It goes straight into your bloodstream.
And for those that proton pump inhibitors are things like the purple pill, Nexium, omeprazole, Prilosec, the pantoprazole, those guys are proton pump inhibitors for which a lot of people are taking.
And I didn't know if you wanted me to name names or not. So
I can do it.
You said the brand names. I didn't.
Yeah, that's okay. I can say it easily.
Okay. So then we've talked about folate. So I think we've done that one. But I want to talk about a little more about B12 and what a B12 deficiency looks like. I have a lot of clients. They say, I have neuropathy. And I ask them two questions. What kind of neuropathy is it? And what is the cause? Because you can be deficient in pretty much any of your B vitamins and get neuropathy. And if you are deficient, it's going to affect your memory. So if somebody's older and your memory's being affected, you don't think about nutrition. You think about, I'm getting Alzheimer's. That's what people think. Well, it could be a vitamin deficiency, could be a mineral deficiency. So the other thing that people say when they come to my office is, I am anemic. And I'll say, what kind of anemia is it? And they're looking at me like I'm out of my mind. Everybody knows about iron, but you can have anemia from a deficiency of B12 or B6 or B2 or copper. Everybody knows about iron.
Don't forget
Or
folic
what?
acid.
Or folic acid. That's right. So if you are anemic, the cause needs to be determined so that the correct thing can be addressed. So what are some simple ways to beat this up? Is to eat fortified foods or to take supplements. So that crunchy cereal we were talking about earlier, that's actually a supplement.
Hmm.
So the meat, the food products is going to be your fish, your eggs, your milk, your beef, your fortified cereals. So that's the cereal we were talking about. Um, Pretty easy to do, actually. This one is not hard.
Hmm.
So when you get folks over 60, women over 60, we got a pretty long list of common deficiencies, and see that vitamin D, the calcium, magnesium keep showing up. B12 keep showing up. But the one I want to focus on is protein. Because when I was in grad school, we had this great debate about, do older people need more protein or less? And, people were saying they need less because their kidneys don't function as well. And the answer is you need more. You need more protein because your turnover is slower. You need more. And so my concern right now is with so many people taking the GLP-1s, um, they may not be getting in enough protein because most of the folks taking GLP-1s have not been to see a registered dietitian who could guide them into what to eat so that when they lose this weight, they don't end up frail and they don't end up with vitamin and mineral deficiencies. So, foods that are rich in protein, of course, is your chicken, your fish, your beans, your Greek yogurt, and your eggs. A lot of my older clients don't have teeth. They either don't have teeth, or they have dentures that don't fit well, or they have gum disease. And you say, have a piece of chicken. And they're looking at me cross-eyed. And I've started asking, tell me what that's about. And people say, well, I can't eat meat because either it hurts or I get a stomach ache. And the stomach ache, if they're taking a proton pump inhibitor, they're going to get a stomach ache because they don't have enough stomach acid to actually digest the protein. So it gets into a vicious cycle. But if you can eat yogurt and you can eat eggs and you can eat beans, you can get adequate protein without eating meat. So, but you have to
Is there a
get.
certain amount? I'm sorry, Linda, is there a certain amount that you should eat a day in terms of servings?
So what you do is you take your body weight in pounds,
Hmm.
divide it by 2.2. And then if you're, healthy and don't have anything going on, you multiply that number by 0.8. And
Okay.
that'll tell you how many grams of protein in a day. If you have any kind of illness going on, you want to multiply that number by 1.0. Now,
Instead of 0.8, instead of 0.8.
our current dietary guidelines say 1.2 to 2.0 to, I say don't do that unless you've talked to somebody about it, because that might actually be too much.
Okay.
The other thing that I see in the older population is they are losing their appetite. And
Hmm.
so there are some deficiencies that will cause you to lose your appetite. So if you are deficient in zinc, you will not have an appetite and you will not be able to smell. And smell is part of the eating experience. If you're deficient in thiamine, which is a B vitamin, iron, B12, folate, or you are malnourished. And I have many clients that are on GLP-1s that are malnourished. So their appetite, and that's kind of one of the things the drug does as well, their appetite is low. So if they can afford something like a protein shake, the fastest way to get it in them is just to do a protein shake once or twice a day. So, who is at risk for losing their appetite? People on GLP 1s, people that are older, any kind of chronic illness, people that drink too much alcohol, of course, the people with eating disorders, people with GI stuff because they can't really eat at all, bariatric surgery patients, cancer patients. And these last two, Jocelyn relates to, and that's low income and food insecure. Because and those folks, they don't know where their next meal is coming from, and they basically eat what they have available. It's For me, I just think this is the United States of America, and we can do better.
Yeah.
So, some public health trends. So, if you think about the groups of people that the groups of women that we just talked about, vitamin D and iron showed up a lot. Older women are at risk for malabsorption, and a lot of that is because they're on five or more medications. And socioeconomic is an issue. It's an issue and it's getting worse. Now, I was listening to something today and they were going, oh, well, the economy is strong. And I'm like, what economy are you talking about? Who are you looking at? It's not
Mhm.
the people that I see. And Jocelyn, is not the people you see. And probably not Dr. Kane either. The people I see are being affected by
Yeah.
the economy.
Yeah.
So here's the bottom line: high risk women need to be screened for deficiencies of nutrients. So you want to encourage the nutrient dense foods, but if all else fails, and probably want to do it anyway, and even the dietary guidelines say people over 50 should probably take a multivitamin, multimineral. That would cover many of the deficiencies. And then look at life stage specific nutritional needs. And as you were talking earlier, Jocelyn, who is giving this information? I actually don't know, but that's why we're here. So that's what I have for tonight.
Wow, this has been a lot, Linda. I tell you what, I was taking notes and I was texting people so much so that my battery died on my phone. I was like, no more notes right now. I have to just wait until we're done. This has been, and I've been getting screenshots from folks saying, wow, just really getting a lot out of this. And I, I have no words other than thank you so much. This has been amazing. And Dr. Kane, this is definitely an episode that we will be repeating over and over again. And again, it's so timely now that it is Women's Health Month. What are your thoughts, Dr. Kane, about tonight's presentation?
It was excellent as usual. Linda always bring a breath of knowledge. I mean, because I absolutely was, overwhelmed with all the different nuances of not eating properly and not having the right vitamins and trying to figure out what to eat. And I'm supposed to be doing that for a living, and, but it's so much that a person has to stay on top of it and look at it all the time. What I do want to know, Linda, is, and you may or may not be able to answer this or willing to answer it. So my patients are always asking me, Dr. Kane, give me a vitamin that I can go take, and I'm gonna say the ones over 50, they're always asking the name of a vitamin. And then some of them want to get these very high potent vitamins.
Yeah.
and they say, well, just as women's vitamins, for older ladies, is that adequate enough? And at what age should I take it? Any kind of a general recommendation as to specific vitamins? Don't have to be the brand, but just whether it's high potency or just a.
Well, they have them in categories. So they'll say for women age 50 plus or men age 50 plus. That's about iron, because you don't want to supplement iron in a menopausal woman, because you don't want her hematocrit to go up to more than 44. So what the supplement manufacturers have done is kind of made formulations that cater to people's fears. But the absolute best thing to do is to get your labs done, see what you're deficient in, and then supplement that. But if that's not possible, then what I need people to understand is that no supplement will replace eating right.
Right.
So the supplement is just to plug the gaps. So if you have an adolescent, because they do eat so poorly, for men, for boys and girls, you probably want to do a multivitamin, just a general multivitamin that does have iron in it. But you wouldn't want to give a male, an adult male, or a menopausal woman a supplement with iron in it. You don't want to do that. So if a male is deficient in iron, or a menopausal woman is deficient in iron, it is probably time for a colonoscopy.
At least.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah.
Probably time for colonoscopy. But and the reason why people ask you the questions they ask you is they're looking for an insurance policy. And I had somebody tell me, well, I take all of my vitamins in the morning on an empty stomach. That generally doesn't work because all of the carriers you need for those vitamins and minerals are in food. So if you take your supplements with food, then for the most part, there's some exceptions, you're going to absorb more. And then there are some supplements that don't need to be taken together.
Yeah, right.
So if you're taking a calcium supplement, you don't want to take that at the same time as a supplement with iron. So one of the things that your friendly neighborhood dietitian does really well is figure that out for you. That's one of the things I do in my practice.
One of the reasons I ask, and I know we're getting short on time, but one of the reasons I ask is because in today's society, people are busy. You're running, you're going.
Mhm.
A lot of time people don't have time enough to eat or to cook like what we would like to, and can't carry around a suitcase full of variable foods. So they try to get something real quick and dirty, as they say, to help supplement their the vitamin intake. So that's one reason I was asking. At least if we can get something for someone to take, not as a replacement, but like what it says, a supplement to proper eating.
So,
And the question I'm sorry. Go ahead, Linda. But I had a question as well.
If you don't mind the brand, I can. There's a brand that there are two brands that I actually like, because you can get them from Walmart, so you're not spending an arm and a leg.
Okay.
And one brand is Alive, ALIVE, because it's food based.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's food based. And the other one is Nature Made.
Yeah.
Because it's been third party tested.
Got it.
So outside of those two, those are the most cost effective brands. Most cost effective.
I wanted to ask, thank you, Linda. I wanted to ask a question about protein drinks. When you talk about using that as a way to get some vegetables in, like for people like like me who don't really like vegetables that much, but I don't mind blending them. But also, I've wondered, do I need to be adding a powder, a protein powder, into that protein drink or my smoothie, if you will? And if so, do you recommend a brand or you prefer not to get into that? Or what should I be looking for in the protein shake or powder rather that I add to my smoothie?
That's a really good question. So it depends on whether you're using the smoothie as a snack or as a meal.
Oh,
If you're using it as a meal, then you need to add a protein powder to it. If you're
okay.
using it as a snack or just a way to get your dreaded vegetables in,
Right.
then you don't need to
Okay.
add a protein powder
That
to it.
makes sense. That makes sense.
The only thing I want to caution some people, and it's not everybody, and probably not even majority. I do kind of want my patients. I like to see what their kidney renal status is when
Yeah.
they start taking in that extra protein because of the fact, what creatine may be added to it, and it may alter the looks of your kidney functions. And I've seen that happen quite a bit. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that. But kind of know what how Johnson always said, know your numbers. So go out there and find out what's going on with you as you begin to change and start talking about taking any supplements other than what you eat. Just
Yeah.
kind of know your numbers as best you can.
And that was why I actually went ballistic when the new dietary guidelines came out, because
Yeah.
they're telling people to eat 2 grams of protein per kilogram. And I'm going to hold up. You need to have labs done before you go
Before
doing
you
that.
run out and do that. That's right. One last thing I want to say, and then I'm done. A lot of people running out buying all kinds of vitamins. They come into my office, and because I tell them to bring their medications with them, and it's like they got a small bag for the medications, the prescription medication. They got this great big old bag of all these other supplements. And then they wonder why they don't, they're either constipated or why they're not really eating a whole lot of food. And I'm going, by the time you take all these vitamins with all the fillers and stuff they got in it, it's like sometimes drinking cement with all those fillers in it. And those things can really get in there and harden and give constipation. They can also, with some people who already don't eat a whole lot, it may make them feel full. And so that's why I ask about one particular multivitamin
Yeah.
that I can do it.
And I always get concerned when people are taking a bunch of different supplements, because they may be getting to toxicity because several supplements may have the same ingredient.
Exactly.
So that really needs to be done under supervision.
I said one last question, but I'm gonna ask you this, Linda: Are we free to put this on our website? Your presentation?
Yes.
Oh,
And
okay.
Jocelyn, I sent you an
Mhm.
outline. You can distribute that if you like.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Oh man, Linda, I tell you what, this has been absolutely amazing. And tonight's conversation reminded us that women's health is not one size fits all. From young adulthood to our senior years, the choices we make every day, including what we eat, can have a lasting impact on our energy, mental wellness, heart health, and overall quality of life. As usual, we want to sincerely thank Linda Brown, the
Yes.
best registered dietitian, licensed dietitian. We will make sure we have her information on the website. Linda, can you share your office number if somebody wants to call and make an appointment with you?
It's 904 276 8050.
Again, 904-276-8050. And Linda has a wonderful practice in Clay County here in the Northeast Florida area. And as you can tell, has a wealth of knowledge.
And
Linda,
hopefully soon on the north side.
to everyone watching,
It's
remember that
yeah.
To everyone watching, remember that small, healthy changes can lead to big, lifelong benefits. Prioritizing your health is not selfish, it's necessary. Thank you for tuning in to Pause for the Truth. And next week, we are going to have part 2 of a series we started a couple of weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, as I talked about earlier, it was a discussion for all males. In a couple of weeks, we're going to have a discussion for all females. And I'm sorry, next week we're going to have a discussion, and it's going to be about the silent pressure, how young girls navigate identity, expectations, and self-worth in today's society. Thank you as always for tuning in to Pause for the Truth. Make sure that you follow us on Facebook. You like I'm sorry, I'm not saying the right terminology, but like our YouTube channel, share the podcast. You can always go onto our website, pauseforthetruth.com, and you'll find all previous episodes. Thank you and have a good evening.
We appreciate you spending time with us on Pause for the Truth. Ms. Jocelyn Turner and Dr. Rogers Kane are grateful for your support. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, catch us live on Twitch, and most importantly, subscribe on YouTube. A big shout out to Tyrone Jackson at Call Tyrone IT Services for keeping us connected. Join us every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more enlightening discussions. Thanks, and see you next week.